AI. It is a word that is everywhere. Since the past few months, a lot of designers have started using AI, especially generative AI, to create some fantastic mind-boggling visuals. Well, a few weeks ago, we found out that even Zaha Hadid Architects, one of the biggest architecture firms in the world, was experimenting with generative AI. So this got me thinking, has AI already entered the professional space of architecture and design? And if so, what will be the impact of that? How much control are we giving AI? Can it design on its own? And most importantly, will it ever replace the designer? To get answers for all of these questions, I went straight to the top of Zaha Hadid Architects and sat down with Patrik Schumacher himself. So without further wait, I bring to you my chat with Patrik on AI and its impact on the field of architecture. So, hey Patrick, it's great to have you back on the channel. The last time you were here, we were discussing the metaverse, and we discussed a lot of your ideas about the metaverse and how it would play out in the future. Today, I actually want to invite you back to talk about a new technology that seems to have taken the architecture world and the world in general by a storm, and that is AI, especially generative AI. And I wanted to know your thoughts on it because I recently saw some of your the roundtable conference that you had at Digital Futures as well, where you showed how ZHA has been experimenting with generative AI as well. So I was really curious as to how architects are using it and properly using it, not just in academic circles. So I was really excited to have you on, and thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'll happy to talk about it. I mean, yes, we're using it. We have a group where we also see within the office all the teams who are experimenting or using it to generate ideas, concepts, formal ideas, mostly compositional ideas through prompting, usually using Zaha Hadid Architects somewhere in the prompt, and then some hint for the program for the site. So it's across the office. I mean, not everybody, not every project necessarily, but quite a few teams, and we're early stages, so there isn't any build works which can be attributed to that process. But it helps us to generate quickly various sketches. Of course, we then have to remodel it and adapt it, and it's more like inspiration than final design. But what is interesting, and I mentioned that there, occasionally if we're very close to the client, we let him in and we show them also some ideas, so before we make the effort to go in and use that, we show them already and get some feedback and help us to target what might fit their purposes or expectations. So that's all very productive, let's say.
So, I mean, at present, the use of AI is, as you said, it's limited to getting inspiration and getting those initial ideas, right?
That's right.
And when you said you sort of, if you're close with the client, you also show it to the client. Do you also invite the client to then also experiment with it and sort of
I don't know what
use?
they do. Maybe no, I haven't seen that yet. It's so easy enough that maybe they do it. I mean, and I haven't yet myself been in such a meeting where somebody brought out and, hey, by the way, I also tried this and this is what I like. And please try. Can you make something of that? But I'm
Yeah.
sure that's coming. That will come.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, though?
Look, it's okay. I think ultimately a very mature client would trust their designers, particular on the high end and particular, say corporate or institutional clients would want to take that burden and risk and potential embarrassment to propose.
Yeah.
They should trust their architects to hit the mark. I mean, what is very important for the client to describe what they want to host with their building, what's the processes, what they're trying to achieve with their building. So that's, but then the rest they should leave to us. And of course, they will look at it and they have to feel good about it too. They will have to see if we actually can fulfill their functionality promises, budget constraints, but the design generation and design decisions should be the architect. So that's the way I look at it. But
In what you were saying right now about what an architect also does beyond just the starting point of the design. This sort of partly answers my next question, but this is something that a lot of people ask. Is using AI sort of the end of human creativity? You're letting go of a human potential and giving it all to a machine. So does it eventually lead to a place where they don't think by themselves but just use machines to think?
Maybe, but it's all for this benefit of higher productivity, more prosperity. So, and I think it's also a form of creativity where you can be stimulated. Usually also any creator, whether it's a writer or artist or architect, you look at precedent. You go through these books and look for inspirations. So there's no kind of pure creativity out of some kind of depths of one's own genius, because that own genius is basically empty, right?
Yeah.
You need to kind of build that genius by absorbing a lot, seeing a lot. Of course, you need an alertness, but when you work interfacing with AI, you also need an alertness, because it throws up these, it used to be kind of 10 images, now maybe more, 4 images are DALI. You have to you have some judgment, some discrimination. Is all about productivity advances. I think all creative industries are gaining enormous power, and you can do much more in a shorter time, and that leads to better decision, because these creations are not just creations for the sake of creations. You're trying to solve problems, right? You're trying to address issues, and if you have more to select from, and you have smarter let's say options to select from, who already have a lot of intelligence and rationality, then the decisions you're making are more sound and less wasteful, and that's good for everybody. The other worry is sometimes, well, will we be all become unemployed?
Yeah.
Will there be, look, for some things like metaverse spaces, will there anyway, the demand for them will be so huge that there are not enough architects in the world to address them. So then you need to have some of that self-generation or using AI, and we also work with these kind of modules. So we're preparing an ease of generating material which also has already a lot of inbuilt intelligence. So that's not worrying me, and I don't think that we'll lose people, or we have less designers and creators. I think the productivity gains will go into better decisions, the client wanting to see more options faster, and with more depths of understanding. It's not only image generation AI, it was also analytic AI and generative geometry AI and so on. And all that has led to, which we're working on already a while, was basically leads to not spending less percentage of the final product on design. That has actually been historically increasing. So in a place like India, the architect gets 1%, and of the equivalent project in the UK, the architect gets 4 or 5%. That's a 5x. And when it comes to cultural building, it goes up to 15%, or all the design and consultants together could get up to 20% of the value. I don't think AI will reduce that, because it pays to simulate, understand, have lots of options to think through before you make a huge, 5-6 year investment, which costs huge resources.
Yeah.
It's better to spend this on finding out whether you're actually totally happy with the results on many, many levels. So AI will help to increase that certainty. And now a client wants, even on competition stage and early sketches, they want to see photorealistic renderings and want to imagine that and be participating in this to understand what they're getting. That's where this empowerment will go into. So we will all be fully employed using AI.
Yeah.
And as I said, creativity, I feel quite creative when I work with some of these systems. When you get into it, you can perfect the dialogue. And I think it's a better dialogue than between you, the paper, the pen, and a pile of books for inspiration.
Yeah.
But it's not inherently less. It's more elegant, more powerful, more productive. But I don't think it's anywhere less creative than sitting with, staring on an empty piece of paper and looking at books, trying to find an image you thought might be an inspiration. So I don't think there's this kind of, it always comes from inspiration.
You mentioned that, as you start using more AI tools, it would also in the future be that your productivity is much higher. You know,
It's
you
already
s-
starting, yeah, yeah.
so you see, I mean, you see these old images of architecture studios where there are lines of people in these huge giant boards just drafting with hand. Uh, and we already see.
I experienced that. I experienced that, by the way. When I started Zaha Hadid, I mean, as a student, I was using a computer. At Zaha Hadid, when I came in, there were no computers. And if we did a competition, I mean, yeah, this was kind of 15 people breaking their backs late nights. I mean, you get back pain even as a 25-year-old. Then you have to draw over these big drawings. And if you make a mistake, you have to scratch them and so on and so forth. And then, I mean, this was, and when the computer was introduced, we first did it for 3D sketching, but then soon for 2D drawings. I mean, I could do the work of 10 people literally. And this was a thrill, but I mean, we didn't fire the rest of the people because we could do more. We did
Yeah,
more
this is what I
projects.
wanted to
We
ask.
also we could do things, faster and give the clients more options, etc.
So, I mean, as you said, you could do, the work of 10 people. With AI, that would be even, I mean, it'll go one step
Yeah,
further.
of course. And the other thing is also, not only can you do the work of 10 people, you can do things even 100 people couldn't have done,
Yeah.
in terms of precision, in terms of, or in terms of geometry, and also the realizability downstream, where all these computational empowerment is also then embedded in the engineering capacities, in the production and the fabrication capacities, where AI comes also in. At the moment, of course, the big rush has been with the image generation,
Yeah.
and that's been fantastic. And it's surprising and amazing that you have these huge models which are so diverse that they can generate comic strips and fantasy creatures and architectural propositions in the form of an image which have originality, coherency, proper light and shadow, and you can start to, and even a layperson can start to see what it might be like.
Yeah. So, I actually wanted to go back to the statement that you said, in the future, you'll be able to do what even 100 people can't do. So, even when you look at your own studio in the future, would you, if AI can do a lot of the work, would you then employ as many people to do the kind of work that you're doing? Because you will be able to not only create quality work, but also do it in huge quantities, like less people doing much more work.
No, I don't think we will have a shrinking office because of AI. Since we are early adopters, I think we will be growing and catching market share from others. And I don't believe in this scenario of many people being unemployed. I believe that everybody will get involved in this kind of knowledge economy creative process. These industries can absorb so much more innovation. Before, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was very, very few creators, because these big assembly lines, mechanical mass production, no digital revolution yet. You had to make identical copies, millions and millions of, and to do something different, you would have to refit all the tools. And now we have reprogrammable tools. You just feed in a new G code, or you 3D print the component. You have these kind of flexible. It's a big difference between a printing press and, let's say, Photoshop and the printer, which prints anything you want. So it's a universal printer. Now we have these universal robotic fabrication machines, plus all these productions which are just software service or software facilities. These innovations will pay in these upgrades, so that makes sense for everybody to participate. And I also think that AI helps more people to anticipate, because now, fabulously and fantastic, these systems write code.
Yeah.
And the way you would interface is already much easier for architects, for instance, with these tools like Grasshopper, and using plugins to get access, intuitive access to a lot of sophistication, and become kind of sophisticated traders. And that's why also I don't believe that you could, some people think, well, the knowledge economy is only for that kind of top 30%, or even if you can bring it up to 50%, but there will always be this kind of other 50% who cannot participate, who can only do manual work. But in a sense, this creative work will be made easier. And so I think everybody participates in it. I do believe that's part of our human psyche, and how of part of happiness is to do something, to progress, to create something,
True.
to improve yourself and improve the lives of society, and that will be, that's the power here. That's what to make that easier is, I think, is the great power of AI, not the substitution, because I don't believe that. I think it will be human machine interfacing. We will be directing and guiding, and develop intentionality of what we want to create. There's a lot of suggestions coming from these systems, but they're not final decision makers.
When I'm hearing your outlook to the future as well, what I'm hearing is, AI will inherently become a part of the society in general, and henceforth our profession and construction industry as well. The people who are not as open to AI right now, and people who are not experimenting with it right now, do you think they would just get left behind or be forced to work with AI in the future?
Oh, I think they will pick it up and they will learn to love it. I mean, the adoption rate of ChatGPT is unbelievable. It's the fastest ever. People just realize this works. This empowers me. That I can learn something quickly. I'm using it all the time for a lot of questions I have, whether it's historical knowledge, political questions, but also legal questions. A lot. I want to know. So. And yes, of course, some of our own capacities might slightly atrophy. So your own memory recedes a little bit if you're always relying on calendars and notifications in your pocket, kind of supercomputer in your pocket, or calculators, and nobody knows how to draw a root, how to calculate the square root. So these things will atrophy, but what the heck? It's good. Let's say good riddance for all of those techniques, which are capacities. We can use our brain kind of capacity and energy for better things.
Perfect. I think that covers all of my questions that I had for you today about
Okay,
AI
great.
as well. But if you want to give like a final note to especially all the young students and architects out there, because I had put out that I'll be interviewing you, and they've sort of sent me a lot of questions as well. But I saw from the majority of their questions that a lot of them were just worried about their future and what AI would mean for their future.
No worries at all. I mean, any designer will be buried by an avalanche of work coming at them through India, through Africa, but also through the metaverse. So I wouldn't worry about that. Explore AI, learn it, know it, be efficient, be competitive. Your competitors and peers will use it, so you should also use it. But also, what I find interesting for those who have more analytic intelligence and computational understanding, and know some mathematics perhaps as well, or to get into, let's say, developing these systems more. So I think our profession, our discipline should have its own specific tools, and not only relying on a universal tool which everybody is using. So I think we will make some progress and gains. I mean, of course, these huge general models kind of have the advantage of enormous resources which are poured into them, and mega supercomputers. But I think eventually we should start this, and eventually they will also, our industry is large enough to also have great systems which are more specifically crafted to our needs and our expertise. So the discipline and profession, we will, and I know quite a few researchers and people are interested to make it more our own as a discipline. I think that's important, and that's, I think, who I would invite bright students to join that, because I think there's a lot of future there. So if we rely more on platforms and tools, we need to become also tool builders, or participate in the process of building these tools.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing at Zaha Hadid Architects for many years, with different interfacing with different software and CAD and other development teams. Also with metaverse and for instance Unreal Engine team, the Epic team, etc., and many others. And this would be also with the AI teams. I think hopefully we get into contact. We're onto that, and that's, I think, exciting. It's not for everybody to be on the tool development side, but on the end user side, all of us are involved.
Yeah.
In terms of creators, and that's what you have to get into for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was some brilliant advice. And that was it, you guys. That was my chat with Patrik. Now, this is an edited down version of the whole chat I had with him. The full unedited conversation was an hour long and it is available to watch for all the channel members. Also, what did you think about everything we discussed in this video? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you can support this channel in making more such content, do consider using the super thanks feature on YouTube. And that was it. I will see you guys soon with more such content. Until then, bye bye.